In about 20 minutes, you're going to watch a man spend $320,000 in cash to buy a house he never intended to live in. He didn't flip it. He didn't rent it. He let it rot. Overgrown lawn, peeling paint, a fence that leaned like it gave up on life. And the best part? It was right next door to his parents. The same parents who kicked him out at 18 with nothing but a garbage bag of clothes and told him to figure it out. They watched their property value drop by $140,000. They threatened lawyers. They begged. They cried. And he just smiled. Family. We're told it's supposed to mean something. Blood is thicker than water and all that poetic garbage. But here's what nobody tells you. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from. This is the story of a son who was thrown away like trash, who clawed his way up from a car seat and a minimum wage paycheck, who hit a windfall that would make most people lose their minds. But he didn't lose his mind. He sharpened it. And then he bought the house next door. Welcome to the archive. Let's begin.
So here's the thing about my parents, they weren't monsters. Not in the obvious way, anyway. They didn't hit me. They didn't scream at me every day. From the outside, we probably looked like a normal middle-class family in a normal suburb in Ohio. But there's this thing narcissists do. They keep score. Everything is transactional. Every meal they cooked, every school supply they bought, every time they drove me to practice, it was all going into some invisible ledger. And I didn't know it, but the bill was coming due. 3 days after I turned 18, my dad sat me down at the kitchen table. Mom was there too, but she didn't say anything. She just kept drying the same dish over and over. He said, and I remember this word for word, "You're a man now. This is how the real world works. You've got 30 days to find somewhere else to live." I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought it was some kind of weird dad joke. It wasn't. I asked him why. What did I do? I had a part-time job at a grocery store making $8.50 an hour. I was planning to go to community college in the fall. I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't do drugs. I got decent grades. I didn't throw parties or wreck the car. And he just shrugged and said, "We did our 18 years. Now it's your turn. Tough love builds tough men." Tough love. That's what he called it. My mom, and this is the part that still messes with me, my mom didn't even look up. She just kept drying that stupid dish. I didn't make it 30 days. The tension in that house was unbearable. They started charging me for food. $20 a week for groceries I consumed. They took the door off my bedroom because it was their door in their house. I left after 12 days. I had $340 in my bank account, a 2001 Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on it, and a garbage bag full of clothes. That was it. That was my entire inheritance from 18 years of being their son. The first night, I slept in a Walmart parking lot. I put a sunshade in the windshield so no one could see me. I remember it was late September, so it wasn't too cold yet. But I just laid there in the back seat thinking, what did I do wrong? I couch surfed for a while. A buddy from high school let me crash for 2 weeks until his mom found out and said I had to go. Another friend's older brother had a basement, but he wanted $400 a month, which was more than I made. I worked doubles at the grocery store. I picked up shifts at a gas station. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches and those little $1 frozen burritos that taste like cardboard wrapped in sadness. And my parents? They didn't check on me once. Not a single text. Not a single call. I found out later from a cousin that they told the whole family I had chosen to leave because I wanted independence. They made themselves the victims. They said I was ungrateful and difficult. I was 18, sleeping in a car, eating gas station hot dogs, and they were telling everyone I was the problem.
Tough love. It's a convenient phrase, isn't it? A way for cruel people to dress up abandonment in the language of parenting. But here's what's interesting about our protagonist. He didn't spiral. He didn't fall into addiction or crime or despair. He did something his parents never expected. He got angry. And then he got disciplined.
By December of that year, I was done. I was tired of couch surfing. Tired of counting quarters for gas. Tired of the pity looks from friends who didn't know what to say. I walked into a military recruiter's office on a Tuesday afternoon. Army. I didn't have some patriotic awakening or anything. I'm not going to pretend this was noble. I needed structure. I needed housing. I needed a paycheck. I signed the papers 2 weeks later. Basic training was brutal, but honestly, it wasn't worse than sleeping in my car. At least I had 3 meals a day and a bed. The drill sergeant screamed at everyone equally, which was weirdly comforting. Nobody cared who your parents were or weren't. I did 4 years active duty. Got stationed in Texas, then Germany for a bit. I learned discipline. I learned how to manage money because, let me tell you, there's nothing like seeing a 19-year-old private blow his entire paycheck on a Dodge Charger at 29% APR to teach you what not to do. I saved everything. I'm talking like 70% of my paycheck. I didn't go out drinking with the guys. I didn't buy stupid stuff. I ate at the chow hall and lived in the barracks and just stacked cash. When I got out, I used my GI Bill to get certified as an electrician. Best decision I ever made. Electricians make good money, and there's always work. I moved back to Ohio, not near my parents, different city, and started grinding. I worked for a company for 2 years, then went independent. Picked up side jobs. Rental properties, new construction, old ladies who needed their outlets replaced. I said yes to everything. I lived in a 400-square-foot studio apartment. My furniture was a mattress on the floor, a folding table, and a TV I got at Goodwill for $25. People at work thought I was broke. I let them think that. By the time I was 26, I had almost $200,000 saved. No debt. No car payment because I drove a used truck I bought in cash. No lifestyle creep. And then, the encounter happened. I was at Home Depot buying supplies for a job. And I'm walking down the electrical aisle, and I hear my mom's voice. I'd recognize it anywhere. That specific tone she uses when she's trying to impress someone, this fake cheerful thing that always made my skin crawl. I turned around, and there they were. Both of them. With a cart full of lawn stuff. They looked older. Dad had put on weight. Mom had that same tight smile. She saw me first. Her face did this weird thing, like she couldn't decide whether to pretend she didn't see me or act excited. She went with excited. "Oh my God, is that you? Honey, look, it's him." My dad looked up and just nodded. Like I was some guy he vaguely recognized from church. And here's the thing, I don't know what I expected. An apology? Some kind of acknowledgement? Stupid, I know. But some small part of me still wanted them to say we were wrong. "We're sorry. Let us make it right." Instead, my mom asked what I was up to these days. I told her I was an electrician. She laughed. Actually laughed. And said, and I quote, "Oh, well, that's practical, I guess. Your father always said you weren't really college material." My dad chimed in with some comment about how at least you're not in jail and asked if I needed money. Not offering it. Asking if I was broke. I didn't say anything. I just looked at them for a long second, turned around, and walked away. That was the last time I spoke to my parents for 7 years.
Not college material. For words that tell you everything you need to know about how they saw him. Not as a son. As a disappointment they discarded. But here's the beautiful thing about being underestimated, it means no one sees you coming. Our protagonist went dark. No contact. No updates. No social media presence. For 7 years, as far as his parents knew, he was some broke electrician living paycheck to paycheck. They had no idea he was about to become a millionaire.
Okay, so here's where the story gets crazy. I'm not a lottery guy. I've probably bought, I don't know, maybe 10 tickets in my entire life. I think it's a stupid tax on people who can't do math. But my buddy Eric, he's this guy I worked with, he was obsessed with it. Every week, he'd buy tickets and talk about what he'd do when he won. For his 40th birthday, I bought him a pack of scratch-offs as a joke. $50 worth. He gave me 2 of them as a thank you, which is honestly kind of a weird move, but whatever. First ticket, nothing. Second ticket, I matched 3 numbers. The prize said $25,000, and I remember thinking, that's a nice chunk of change. Then I looked again. It didn't say $25,000. It said $25 million. I didn't scream. I didn't jump around. I just sat there on my couch in my little studio apartment, staring at this piece of paper, and I thought, this can't be real. I checked it maybe 15 times. I Googled how to verify lottery tickets. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I called in sick to work, drove to the lottery headquarters, and waited 4 hours in this beige government building. They verified it. They took photos. They asked if I wanted to be anonymous. I said yes. Absolutely yes. After taxes, I took home $12.8 million. Here's what I didn't do. I didn't buy a mansion. I didn't buy a Lamborghini. I didn't tell anyone except my financial advisor, a lawyer, and my buddy Eric, who I gave $200,000 to because honestly, without him, I'd never have bought those tickets. I kept working. Same job. Same truck. Same studio apartment. I invested most of it, index funds, real estate, boring stuff. I lived off my electrician salary and pretended nothing had changed. People who win the lottery and go broke? They do it because they tell everyone and suddenly every cousin and coworker and random acquaintance has a sob story and a handout. I wasn't going to be that guy. For 2 years, nobody knew. It was the best kept secret of my life. And then my cousin Marcus opened his big mouth.
$12.8 million. And he kept it quiet for 2 years. No flashy cars. No Instagram posts. Just quiet discipline. But secrets in families are like water in a cracked dam. Eventually they find a way out. And when his parents discovered the truth, the audacity was about to reach levels that would make your blood boil.
Marcus is my mom's sister's kid. We were kind of close as kids, but I hadn't talked to him in years. Somehow, and I still don't know exactly how, he found out. I think he works at a bank, and maybe he saw something? I don't know. But he knew. And Marcus, because he's Marcus, told his mom. And his mom told my mom. The first text came on a Wednesday night. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but the message started with, "Hi sweetheart, it's Mom." I almost threw my phone across the room. She went on for like 3 paragraphs about how she'd been thinking about me and how family is so important and how she and Dad had always been proud of me, even if they didn't always show it. I didn't respond. 3 days later, another text. This one was more direct. She mentioned that she'd heard I was doing well financially and that she was so happy for me. Still didn't respond. A week later, my dad called. First time in 7 years. He left a voicemail that was somehow both awkward and aggressive. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, "Look, son, we should talk. Water under the bridge and all that. Let's grab lunch. Your mother is worried about you. Worried about me. That's rich." I texted back one line, "I'm fine. Don't contact me again." That should have been the end of it. But of course, it wasn't. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. A physical letter, handwritten, 6 pages long. My mom really went all out with the guilt trip. She talked about how they did their best and how every parent makes mistakes and how she prays for me every night. And then, here's the kicker, the last page. She wrote that they were struggling financially. That their mortgage was underwater. That they owed $287,000 on the house and were barely making payments. She said that if I could find it in my heart to help them, they would be forever grateful. She literally asked me to pay off their mortgage. But wait, it gets better. She included a line, and I took a photo of this because I couldn't believe it. She wrote, "We raised you for 18 years. We fed you, clothed you, gave you a roof. If you have the means to help us now, it's only fair. "You owe us that much. You owe us." I read that line maybe 50 times. You owe us. For doing the legal bare minimum. For providing what they were literally required by law to provide. And then kicking me out the second they weren't required anymore. I owe them. I didn't respond to the letter either. But something shifted in me that day. I wasn't just done with them emotionally, I was done letting them have peace. They wanted to take from me? Fine. I was going to take something from them.
You owe us. 3 words that sealed their fate. Because here's what they didn't understand. They weren't dealing with the scared 18-year-old they threw away. They were dealing with a man who had spent a decade learning patience, learning strategy, learning how to play the long game. And the long game was about to get very, very petty.
I'm not proud of how much time I spent on Zillow looking at houses in my parents' neighborhood. Actually, scratch that, I'm a little proud. I set up alerts. Every time a house within a 1-mile radius went on the market, I got a notification. I wasn't sure what I was planning exactly. I just knew I wanted options. And then, like the universe was handing me a gift, that house popped up. 2847, Maple Drive. Right next door to my parents. The old couple who lived there had moved to Florida. Their kids were selling it. Asking price, $310,000. It needed work, the roof was rough, the landscaping was overgrown, but it was structurally solid. I called my lawyer. I set up an LLC with a boring, generic name. Something like Midwest Property Holdings. Completely untraceable to me unless you really dug. I made a cash offer, $320,000. Above asking. No contingencies. Close in 2 weeks. They accepted in 48 hours. My parents had no idea their new neighbor was their own son. Now, here's where I need to be careful with what I say. I didn't do anything illegal. I want to be crystal clear about that. I didn't start fires. I didn't dump chemicals. I didn't harass anyone. I just stopped maintaining the property. First, the lawn. I canceled the landscaping service the previous owners had. Within a month, the grass was knee-high. Dandelions everywhere. It looked abandoned. My parents, being the HOA-loving busybodies they are, complained to the city. The city sent me a notice. I paid the fine, $75, and let the grass grow for another 3 weeks before cutting it. Then I let it grow again. Next, the paint. The house was this nice pale blue color. I hired a guy to repaint it. But I specifically chose this shade of yellow-green that can only be described as baby vomit. It was technically within HOA guidelines, just barely, but it was hideous. My mom complained to anyone who would listen. I know because Marcus told me. She was horrified by the eyesore next door. Then, the fence. The fence between my property and theirs was shared. My side, my responsibility. I let it rot. Boards started falling off. I replaced them with mismatched wood, different colors, different heights. It looked like a fence a drunk person built during an earthquake. I parked a boat in the driveway. I don't own a boat. I bought a broken one off Craigslist for $400 and just left it there. On a trailer. For 8 months. It had a tarp on it that was slowly disintegrating. And the crown jewel, I rented the house to a guy named Doug. Doug was a friend of a friend of a friend. He was a nice enough guy, but he had 3 large dogs, a motorcycle he liked to work on at 7 a.m. on Saturdays, and absolutely zero concern for what the neighbors thought. Doug paid his rent on time and followed all the rules in the lease. He just happened to have a lifestyle that was incompatible with suburban tranquility. Within 6 months, my parents' house had dropped in estimated value by $95,000. Within a year, it was down $140,000. They tried to sell. They listed it at $340,000. Then $320,000. Then $299,000. No bites. Every buyer who came to look would see the house next door and walk away. My mom tried to sue me. Well, sue the LLC. Her lawyer sent a cease and desist about intentional property devaluation and nuisance behavior. My lawyer responded with a 14-page letter explaining exactly why they had no case. Everything I did was legal. Ugly, petty, and beautifully legal. My parents sold their house last month. They listed it at $340,000. They sold it for $247,000. That's a $140,000 loss from what it was worth before I moved in next door. And considering they still owed $287,000 on the mortgage, they had to bring money to the closing table. They came out of that sale owing the bank $40,000. They moved to some apartment complex 2 towns over. My cousin says they're devastated and don't understand why life has been so unfair to them. Unfair. They kicked out their teenage son with nothing and told him he owed them for the privilege of existing. And now they don't understand why life is unfair. As for me, I gave Doug 6 months' notice. He's moving to Texas for a job anyway, and I'm selling the house. I listed it for $295,000 after putting about $15,000 into basic repairs and landscaping. It'll probably sell fast now that there's no eyesore next door dragging it down. I'll make a small profit. Not much, maybe $25,000 after everything. But that was never the point. The point was taking back my power. The point was showing them that actions have consequences. The point was proving to myself that I wasn't the worthless kid they threw away. My mom reached out one more time. Right before they moved. She sent me an email. Somehow she got my email address, begging me to reconsider. She said she knew it was me. She said she knew I bought the house. She said I had destroyed the family. I wrote back. One sentence. I learned from the best. I'm 31 years old. I have $14 million in assets. I have a job I love, friends who actually care about me, and a life I built with my own 2 hands. And I have 0 parents. Some people might think that's sad. Maybe it is. But here's what I've learned: family isn't blood. Family is the people who show up when you're sleeping in your car. Family is Eric, who gave me those lottery tickets. Family is the guys in my unit who had my back. Family is built, not born. My parents wanted me to fail so they could feel justified in abandoning me. They wanted me to come crawling back, broke and desperate, so they could say, "I told you so." Instead, I bought the house next door and let it rot. And honestly, I'd do it again.
There's an old saying, living well is the best revenge. But sometimes, living well and making their property value tank by $140,000? That's the perfect revenge. Our protagonist didn't become a villain. He didn't break any laws. He simply applied the same philosophy his parents taught him. Tough love. Actions have consequences. The real world doesn't care about your feelings. They just didn't expect the lesson to come back around. If you're watching this and you're the kid who got thrown away, the one they said wouldn't amount to anything, the one sleeping in the car right now wondering what you did wrong, you didn't do anything wrong. And you don't owe them a thing. Build your life. Stack your wins. And never forget who doubted you. Because one day you might just be able to afford the house next door. Until next time, this has been The Archive.